Now at 6 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, the husband of Goliad's mayor banned from city council meetings there. Trash dumped in a part of Ganado. Police there want information. And a 96-year-old woman in Fort Worth walks proudly to commemorate Juneteenth.
Well, in the weather world, big news. The tropics are beginning to get active. As you can see right about here, we have Tropical Storm Brett as of this afternoon. 40-mile-an-hour winds, and the computers are all in agreement. It's headed toward the Caribbean. What happens after that? That's the big question. We'll be talking about it coming up.
And local gymnasts are competing in nationals for a chance at being #1 in the nation. More on that in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker. Karina Garcia has the night off. Refugio County Sheriff's deputies worked a crash on State Highway 202 at FM 2441 this morning. That area was closed for at least an hour. Highway 202 now reopened for traffic. Goliad Mayor Brenda Moses' husband banned from City Hall by a 3-2 vote of City Council persons during their June 14th meeting. The Goliad Advance Guard reports the City Council planning an investigation into a verbal altercation May 10th between the mayor's husband, Jason Moses, and Goliad Finance Officer Sherry Kunstler. Jason Moses banned from City Hall until the council has received the results of the investigation. Ganado Police Department asking for the public's assistance for information on a pile of trash that was dumped in the open area in the north part of Ganado. Any information on this can be anonymously called into the Ganado Police Department at 361-771-2800 or by calling the Jackson County Sheriff's Office Dispatch non-emergency phone number 361-782-3541. The Chisholm Trail Heritage Museum hosts a Juneteenth celebration tonight. 25 News Now reporter Adarius McCormick is there in Cuero and has more. Adarius?
Juneteenth, June 19th, or Freedom Day is a true celebration of Black joy, pride, freedom, and unity in our nation. Though it's United States' newest federal holiday, it has been celebrated here in the state of Texas since 1980. Here in Cuero, we're celebrating with our this exhibit of Black cowboys and Black rodeos and how they changed the landscape of Texas. You can come to the Chisholm Trail Heritage Museum. You can see local cowboys from the city around the area and Crossroads. You can see exhibits that show how they touched our lives and how they changed our future in agriculture here in Texas. Come on down to the museum and see this event. It's going on until 8 p.m. and if you cannot make it, I'll get this story in for the later shows at 9 and 10. Make sure you check in later. Happy Juneteenth, you guys. Reporting live in Cuero, I'm Adarius McCormick, KAVU TV, 25 News Now.
All right, Adarius, thank you. And this brings us to your viewer poll this evening. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. Here's the question. Did you attend any Juneteenth events over the weekend? Yes or no? Let's look at the numbers. 5% of the voters say yes. 95% of the voters say no. We want to hear from you. Thank you for voting and come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. We'll have an update on what you and your neighbors are saying on 25 News Now at 10. America's newest federal holiday, Juneteenth, commemorates the end of slavery. Citizens across the country marking the occasion with parades and concerts.
Cities across the country celebrating Juneteenth, a federal holiday marking the end of slavery. One of the nation's largest parades held in Philadelphia. Marches bringing people together in Denver.
It makes you see that it's not just you, you're not alone.
And in Washington, D.C., festivals lined the streets.
This holiday is about celebrating freedom from slavery. As hard as that is to even say, that's the reality.
While cities are filled with colorful celebrations this holiday, the road to end slavery was a much darker time in American history. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, ending slavery in the U.S. But news of liberation slowly spread across the South. It took more than 2 years for the news to reach the final enslaved group in Galveston, Texas. That day was June 19, 1865, 158 years ago.
The country, the nation, the government had people in bondage. It was ugly. But now is a time that we can show the world that America doesn't stay in bondage, that it actually comes forth.
Monday, the city of Galveston marking the birthplace of what is now Juneteenth, a day of liberation now celebrated across the country.
To celebrate one of our nation's founding principles, the principle of freedom.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Fort Worth hosted Opal Lee's annual Walk for Freedom on Monday, and the grandmother of Juneteenth told KXAS she is not slowing down anytime soon. The annual walk, led by Lee, is 2.5 miles long, representing the 2.5 years it took for news of the Emancipation Proclamation to reach enslaved people in Texas. The 96-year-old Lee spent decades pushing for Juneteenth to become a federal holiday. Over the years, the walk in East Fort Worth has grown larger. Lee said it has grown larger both in size and overall meaning. The National Weather Service has excessive heat warnings for all 6 counties in this region. The National Weather Service reports dangerously hot conditions with heat index values from 115 to 123 degrees were expected until 8 o'clock tonight. The Salvation Army of Victoria's cooling station at 1302 North Lewis Street opens when the temperature rises above 95 degrees. Salvation Army of Victoria Commanding Officer Captain Kenny Jones tells us they are averaging 4 to 6 people in the cooling station daily. And now let's take a first look at your forecast. Here's First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Pettis. Mac, we're talking about the heat. Good reasons why, but there is some activity now in the tropics.
That's it, right, Don? We've got a tropical storm in the Atlantic. We'll certainly be having all that coming up in a moment. Right now, it's 92 after a high today of 98 degrees. It feels like 109. I wish I could tell you there was some change on the horizon, but through the next 10 days, we're going to be stuck in this stuff. So all we can do is learn how to deal with it. So we'll be talking about that and taking a look at the Atlantic coming up in just a moment. Don, back to you.
Mac, thank you. Officials say multiple tornadoes swept through Mississippi overnight, killing 1 and injuring nearly 2 dozen. State emergency workers still working with counties to assess the damage from storms in which high temperatures and hail in some areas came with tornadoes. The death and most injuries have been reported in East Mississippi. Authorities say more than 49,000 homes in central Mississippi are without power. President Biden in California today to announce new federal funding for climate resilience projects. That's according to a White House official. The trip comes as more than 50 million people across the Southeast face the threat of severe storms, and 35 million people in the South remain under heat alerts.
Well, here in California on the agenda today is the climate and also the campaign, with President Biden beginning to hammer home key campaign messages as to what he is doing to tackle the climate crisis.
Oh my God. As parts of the country grapple with another round of severe storms.
And all of a sudden the tornado formed and it just dropped on us.
And life-threatening heat.
Definitely staying hydrated because it's like really hot.
President Joe Biden heads to California to announce his administration's latest efforts to deal with the climate crisis. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is launching a $575 million project aimed at helping coastal and Great Lakes communities become more resilient to extreme weather, protecting them from storm surge, flooding, and rising sea levels. The move comes at a critical time for homeowners in those areas. Extreme weather is one factor driving up insurance rates, and 2 major insurance companies recently stopped accepting new applications altogether in California.
Unfortunately, the law is the insurance companies have the right, as long as they give you 75 days notice, when your policy comes up for renewal, they can tell you, we're not going to issue you a new policy.
And the president will be here in the West, out in California through Wednesday. That's the latest here in Los Angeles. I'm Mike Valerio. Back to you.
Governor Greg Abbott closing out the 88th legislative session with a record-setting number of vetoes. The Texas state constitution grants the governor 20 days after the end of a regular legislative session to veto bills passed by Congress. KXN reports as of Sunday night's deadline, Governor Abbott vetoed 76 bills. He says he is vetoing these bills because the legislature has not delivered a bill reducing property taxes. Governor Abbott on Monday did approve a record $1.19 billion in new spending for the Texas A&M University system, including money to freeze undergraduate tuition and fees for Texas residents for the next 2 years. KBTX reports the new spending, which was contained in several bills, is the first time in history the Texas A&M system has gone over $1 billion in new funding from the state. Allies for suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton lobbying hard for the ability to dismiss the allegations against Paxton without the need for an impeachment trial. House impeachment managers pushing back, warning the committee against adopting rules that would pave the way for what they called a sham trial. The 7-member committee expected to issue its recommendations to the full Senate on Tuesday. The trial expected to start no later than August 28th. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Then you'll get on our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6. Tens of thousands of sausages recalled. There may be some plastic in them. Also ahead, the YMCA coming up big in the heat for Houstonians. Sausage company Johnsonville recalling more than 42,000 pounds of its Better with Cheddar sausages. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says the ready-to-eat pork links, which were shipped to Texas, may be contaminated with thin black plastic strands. No reports of illness or injury so far, and the company says it shouldn't cause any injury or illness. The voluntary recall covers 14-ounce packages of Johnsonville Better with Cheddar smoked sausage links produced on January 26, 2023. In Houston, the YMCA there helping people in Space City beat the heat.
With the city baking in an excessive heat warning, most Houstonians are opting to stay indoors.
I probably would have stayed home in bed.
But there's another place you can go.
Pretty much wherever you live, there's going to be a Y.
Greater Houston YMCA's opening their doors, lanes, and buckets to the public.
So this weekend, we're a designated cooling center, which means that anyone in the city can walk into any YMCA and open a guest pass account.
Trotter Family YMCA Healthy Living Director Monica Ward says guest passes give you access to everything a full member can use.
Also, you can come in and you can use the showers. You can come work out. A mom can check her kids into Child Watch and just have like a moment of peace in the cool.
Guest passes are typically good for about 3 visits, but under this excessive heat warning.
And if they run out of those 3 visits and we're still a designated cooling center, we'll let them come in and sign up for another one.
Jose Cortez and his family enjoyed a very hot Father's Day poolside.
It was like super hot, so we decided to come to the pool and to chill a little bit. Yeah, it refreshed us.
While Kelly Glazer and Jeremiah Sauls shot some hoops while staying comfortable.
Playing basketball and swimming. You can spend all day doing different kinds of sports that he doesn't usually always get to do, so it's awesome.
Yes, it's awesome when you're under that bucket of water. And what would we do without air conditioning, Don?
Get really hot.
Yes, we'd be perspiring. Well, folks, the big news in the weather office is that now, you know, the heat. That's not old. That's old news. We have a new tropical storm. It's called Brett. It's out there in the mid-Atlantic, but you can see how the path takes it right into the Caribbean in about 2-3 days. So we're going to be talking about that and taking a look at what happens after those 3 or 4 days. We'll also be talking about the heat as well. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more coming up after this. Everybody, again, thank you to the angels that bring us the air conditioning. And I think we ought to have a national holiday for all the AC workers, you know, I mean, because without them, oh my gosh. Well, 98 was our high temperature today, not a record, but you know, it's warm enough. Houston got up to 99. San Antonio set a new record of 104. And Del Rio got up to a new record high of 109 yesterday, and that's the temperature. Yesterday, Del Rio was at 111. So, yeah, these are the observed highs across the state today. I mean, 114 in Laredo, 96 up in Amarillo. And, of course, you heard about the tornado that went through Perryton. Perryton was up here on Thursday. Storms went down this direction, and all of this portion of northeast Texas was out of power with those thunderstorms that were so powerful. These are the forecast highs for tomorrow. They don't change much. We should break 100 sooner or later, but you know, it doesn't really matter. You know, 2 degrees either way, it's just hot enough for everybody. Late this afternoon, while we're down here, we popped some big thunderstorms out in the hill country. As a matter of fact, you can see them right there. These little dots that you see, these are local storm reports, LSRs, that they've got some big hail up in that area just north of Junction up toward Mason and Brady. The thunderstorms are pulse thunderstorms like what we've had over the last couple of weeks, where it's just really intense heating and then boom, the big thunderstorm pops. It gets very strong, very fast, punches up into the cool air in the higher levels of the atmosphere, and then collapses like right at sundown. So that's what we're having right about there. I don't believe that's a concern as far as we are. Now, out in the tropics, it's coming alive, folks, and here it is early in the season. But then again, remember what my forecast is, a very active season with up to 22. Well, we now have Brett. 40-mile-an-hour winds circulation, and you can see 24 hours, 48 hours, and 96 hours. A lot of agreement as to where it's going. It's going to the Caribbean, or the Lesser Antilles, or the Leeward Islands, whatever. I call them the itty-bitty islands, right there in the chain. They will be first, and then Puerto Rico. Let me show you a future tracker. This goes 7 days, so we start on Monday. You can see the circulation. You can see how it sort of moves and goes through the Lesser Antilles and then gets into the Puerto Rico and Cuba area. And then I believe that by the time next Monday, it'll start crossing into the Atlantic. Now, that's just my opinion. That's what I'm going to watch. And then when it does that, it's going to pull out to sea. I'm not the official hurricane center, but that's my take on this forecast, because there's a big low on the west coast that's going to push it away. I don't believe, and there's another problem. The shear is going to run into it, and so that means it's going to be weakening after it hits land there. So it's not a big one, but certainly it is one, and we've got to deal with it. Port Lavaca getting down to only 83 tonight, up to 90 for tomorrow, but at least you have that little sea breeze blowing. For our friends in Cuero, they're getting up to 102 tomorrow afternoon, and there's really no real change in sight, and I'm not kidding when I say this, through 10 days. So it's another solid week of high temperatures and high humidity, so try and stay cool the best you can. That's your 7-day forecast. I want to remind everybody we got that QR code. Scan that and put Crossroads Today on your phone. Toss it back to Don right about now.
Mike, thank you. Sports Director Gino Perez here with a look at a really hot baseball team here.
Yeah, they're hot, and it's hot out. The Victoria Generals have been taking care of business last night in dominant fashion. We check out the highlights after the break. At a crossroads, multiple gymnasts are competing in Oklahoma and looking to become national champions. A few full-force gymnasts are at the U.S. Championships in Tulsa, and the competition started yesterday on June 18th. 3 of the 5 athletes from the local gym are returning national champions. The 3 are Callie Ganaway, Daisy Rickman, and Serenity Hull. Rickman won the level 8 trampoline last year and looking to win back-to-back titles. Ganaway took silver last season, but won the national title a couple years ago in trampoline. Serenity is also a former national title winner in level 6 trampoline. Ganaway said she feels no pressure this year and is excited to go back and do well. The newest trick she is trying to perfect is called a Rudy double mini on double mini.
I've definitely came a pretty long ways because, I've gotten way better than I was. I just try to think good thoughts that I can do it and that I'll do good.
That trick is called a Rudy double full, and Rickman will be returning with a medal from the double mini competition after completing that trick. After this pass, she took second place out of 65 athletes in the nation. Before her competition, Rickman spoke about how she has been preparing for nationals, and this year was going to be tougher because she is competing in a higher level.
Landing the double full and getting your arms up so that you don't fall in the Rudy. I've been practicing and we got new routines this year, so we'll have higher difficulty.
In the tumbling events today, Ganaway took 11th, Serenity Hull took 32nd, while Kendall Helms made the top 10, placing 9th, and Lorelai Garza took 12th in trampoline. The girls will compete in trampoline tomorrow, and Ganaway and Rickman will be teaming up to compete in synchro trampoline on Wednesday. This is the first time they will be competing together at nationals. The girls' best event is tomorrow, so hopefully there will be some gold in their future. We have an exciting baseball match to report as the Victoria Generals dominate the Seguin River Monsters. Let's dive into the details of this offensive onslaught. In a remarkable offensive display, the Victoria Generals decimated the Seguin River Monsters with a resounding 19-2 victory at Riverside Stadium. The Generals unleashed a relentless assault, collecting 13 hits and drawing an astounding 17 walks while striking out just 3 times. With the Generals win, they reached a .500 record with 8-8, positioning them 2 games behind the league leaders, the Baton Rouge Rougarou. Almost every member of the Generals lineup contributed to an RBI, with left fielder R.J. Patrick leading with the charge with 4 RBIs. The Generals' dominant performance propels them into their next game against the Seguin River Monsters at Smokey Joe Williams Park, while they eagerly await the next home game against the Acadiana Cane Cutters at Riverside Stadium for a free ticket night on Tuesday. Well, that's your sports. Back to you, Don.
All right, Gino, thank you. We're back in a moment. A Black History Museum in Florida finds a new way to celebrate Juneteenth. And finally tonight, a Black History Museum in Florida celebrated Juneteenth today and showed off a new mural which reads Black History Matters. The artwork in front of the Woodson African American Museum of Florida originally said Black Lives Matter, but was redone to honor the holiday. Local artists began work on the mural June 15th. The museum says the mural serves as its welcome mat. That is some kind of really big welcome mat.
I can only imagine the artist doing that.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
What kind of brush did he use? It was like a broom, I guess. Maybe. That's
Long
a big one.
stripes, broad stripes.
And broad strokes.
Broad strokes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
And-
well, there's still events going on today, you know, for Juneteenth, and today is the day. And I'm jealous. Juneteenth is a Texas holiday that has now become a national holiday.
We were the first state
But
to
it was
declare it a
us.
state holiday.
It
1980.
happened right up the coast, you know.
Yeah, but we still have hot weather here.
Well, yeah. I wonder if it was this hot back in 1885. I don't know. Anyway, folks, there's not a lot of change in your forecast. We're at 98 today. I'm forecasting 100 for tomorrow. Of course, these are all alert days because the heat is, you now know that it can get you, okay?
All right, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. We'll see you tonight at 10.